One, this is not a 737 problem. It's a Boeing problem. And I know the FAA's gone in and they've done due diligence and inspections to assure that the door plugs of the 737 are installed properly and the fasteners are torqued properly. But my concern is what's the rest of the airplane? What's the rest of the condition of the airplane? And the reason my concern for that is back in 2012, Boeing started removing inspection operations off their jobs. So it left the mechanics to buy off their own work. So what we're seeing with the door plug blowout is what I've seen with the rest of the airplane as far as jobs not being completed properly, inspection steps being removed, issues being ignored. My concerns are with the 737 and the 787 because those programs have really embraced the theory that quality is overhead and non-value added. So those two programs have really put a strong effort into removing quality from the process. When I first started working at Charleston, I was in charge with pushing back defects to our suppliers. And what that meant was I'd take a group of inspectors and actually go to the supplier and inspect their product before they sent it in. Well, I'd taken a team of 4 inspectors to Spirit Aerosystems to inspect the 41 section before they sent it to Charleston. And we found 300 defects. Some of them were significant that needed engineering intervention. When I returned to Charleston, my senior manager told me we had found too many defects and he was going to take the next trip. So the next trip he went on, he took 2 of my inspectors. And when they got back, they were given accolades for only finding 50 defects. So I pulled that inspector aside and I said, did Spirit really clean up their act that quick? That don't sound right. And she was mad. She said, no, said the 2 inspectors were given 2 hours to inspect the whole 41 section and they were kicked off the airplane.
Really inflammatory accusations from a whistleblower, John Barnett, who is now unlived. Whenever you see someone who is in this type of high profile whistleblower or case where they have information, maybe it's for Clinton or it doesn't matter. In this case, it's for Boeing, and you see them unlived, it makes you wonder. I'm not going to make any accusations. I will look deeper into this. It's very odd, or it's very convenient, however you look at it, to see this. He talked about John Barnett here. I'm going to tell you what happened in a second, but remember that door that fell out. There was an incident with a door plug on a Boeing 737 MAX 9 that led to a lawsuit. A lawsuit was filed by 4 passengers against Alaska Airlines and Boeing on January 5th, shortly after takeoff from Portland International Airport. The door plug, he mentioned the door plug in this video. The door plug had issues. The door plug for the fuselage of the plane fell off. It depressurized the cabin. Then on top of that, he has whistleblower stuff where he talked about that he didn't know if the oxygen in some of these planes were going to work. He said that, I think it was via testing, it only worked 25% of the time. So you've got dominoes here that with the safety of taking a trip, any type of traveling through an airplane, there's checks on every single level. And if you drop the ball on one, you can create a domino effect. Thankfully, nobody was seriously injured in that incident, but man, that was thousands of feet above the ground. And the lawsuit alleges that the incident caused passengers to experience intense fear, distress, anxiety, trauma, and physical pain. I could imagine that. Let's look at John Barnett a little bit closer. John Barnett that you're seeing right here in this video. That's John Barnett right there. No longer alive. John Barnett, he was with Boeing. Just to give you a little breakdown of his career, he was with Boeing. He was a former quality control manager at Boeing. Tenure at Boeing, 32 years, retired in 2017. Key responsibilities: quality management at the North Charleston plant, focusing on the 787 Dreamliner production. And you get into his whistleblower claims. He publicly raised concerns, as you heard, about Boeing's production standards. He was found unlived in what appears to be a self-inflicted wound from a gunshot on Saturday. Barnett, 62, had worked for Boeing for over 3 decades, retiring in 2017. He was known for his allegations regarding the safety compromises. Here we go. He said that in the 787 Dreamliner jets specifically, he pointed out that the emergency oxygen systems for the planes had a failure rate of 25%. So that's what it was actually a failure rate of 25%. This, he claimed, meant that in the event of sudden cabin decompression, just like what happened when that fuselage issue, a quarter of the 787 Dreamliners could potentially fail to provide sufficient oxygen, putting passengers at risk of suffocation. Barnett's concerns originated from his time working at the North Charleston plant starting in 2010, where he felt that the rush to get planes off the production line compromised their safety. Despite raising these issues to his managers, he felt that no significant action was taken to address them. When I look at this sends a message to all whistleblowers. There's whistleblowers all over the place. From right now, the FBI is going after one. They're talking about Biden, talking about the pandemic. They're whistleblowers all over the place right now. And even when O'Keefe was with Project Veritas, we saw him pulling them out. For OMG, now he's creating an army of journalists who do undercover work. They're not whistleblowers, but I think when you see stuff like this, if you are doing any type of expose of big companies, any big company that's big enough to have contracts with the government, you're going to have a lot of problems. Boeing is also one of the largest aerospace and defense contractors in the world. So who knows how deep this goes? And if he exposes this, does it open it up to another thing? I mean, Boeing allegedly was involved in alien type stuff too, because it's Department of Defense. These contracts can range from the development and supply of military aircraft, satellite and space technology, to cybersecurity and advanced communication systems. We talked about Nikki Haley, former governor of South Carolina, and just dropped out of the race. She joined Boeing's board in 2019. This is just a side mission. I'm not saying anything, but she was on their board at one point during this time frame where there were some current concerns. Her role on the board would likely involve providing strategic guidance and oversight across the company's operations. So who knows what she was involved in and what she wasn't. Here's a clip of basically footage. It's secret footage captured of Boeing engineers saying they would not fly on these planes. Let's take a look at this.
In Charleston are assembling the company's flagship product, the 787 Dreamliner. But this footage reveals some have little faith in the plane they build.
Did you fly on one? No. You won't fly on one. Did you fly on one of these planes?
Of 15 workers asked randomly, 10 said they would not fly on the Dreamliner.
I wouldn't fly on one of these planes because I see the quality going down around here.
An employee captured the footage after contacting Al Jazeera to tell us he had serious concerns about what he was seeing. At his request, we changed his voice.
With all the problems reported on the 787, there's 90% that's getting swept away. Hushed up. It's an iceberg.
In another meeting, the source told us workers are often underskilled, uncaring, and in some cases on drugs.
I've seen a lot of things that should not go on at an airplane plant. People talking about doing drugs, looking for drugs.
It's all coke and painkillers and what's that other one? You can get weed here. It's really good weed here. They don't drug test nobody.
I know they don't.
And there's people who go out there and lunch and go smoke one up.
Do they?
Hell yeah.
So at any large company, you're going to have stuff like that, especially a large company where it might be a little bit easier to hide. I don't know the ins and outs of Boeing and aircraft quality control, but I would just like to see a heightened focus on safety. Right now, it doesn't feel like we value the right things. I didn't even talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion in here. That's another concern. If you are hiring on merit, you don't talk about the color of somebody's skin, how tall they are, or who they like to have sex with. That's just not something that comes up in a conversation for anyone who values merit and is hiring on merit. But that's what we're hearing from these CEOs, or at least the United CEO. I covered that video with the United CEO. Let me just go get ahead and play that and end with that. The United CEO, this came up because I'll just continue and show this discussion here. ABL is, somebody who I like, but when it comes to race, a lot of people they're just whack. I mean, I just don't know what else to say it. He's great, but he's off sometimes. This is where the discussion, I'm going to end with this here. I think this is a good way to kind of end it. You see all the different myriad of concerns. I don't want anybody to be scared. I'm going to be on a plane here soon, and a lot of people going on spring break for planes and stuff. And I'm just hoping that, they got the best up there. Lauren said here, as your silver-haired Maverick pilots retire, meet his new replacement. So she's making a racially undertoned tweet saying, and if you're just watching or listening, this is a black woman in the cockpit here flying the plane. I got no beef with her. I am not going to speak for Lauren and where she's going with it. I don't have a problem with her tweet. I mean, she just posted a picture and a video, but I don't know what she means. I'll speak for myself. What I see here is when you talk about anything other than merit, you disqualify the people you hire. So this is separate from the whistleblower stuff now, but you see the concerns just quickly compounding. And this is basically a part of another governmental organization with all the contracts they have. Oh my gosh, they put a community notes on this? That is the worst community note I've ever seen in my life. Who said the pilot was doing anything wrong in the tweet? Wow. Community notes is so bad. Lauren posted a tweet that said, as your silver-haired Maverick pilots retire, meet his new replacement. She didn't say that. She didn't say anything about you can infer all you want. That's bananas. That's a really crazy. They put a community note that said readers added context. I'm tired of you adding context. I don't need you to add context to this. The pilot is doing nothing wrong in this clip. Who said that they were? And then you can't reply to it. That's why Trump was right not to come back on X. Don't come back to this trash. Anthony Brian Logan, who's a race identitarian, I mean, I like him, but this is what he is. He says, do you want us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, contribute to society, or? So I don't know what he's saying. I interpret this as him thinking when he says us, black people. So he's basically saying, well, she's working, she's trying to get a job, she's trying to do something, and you're dissing her. But I don't know that's disingenuous, ABL. Here's the concern. The problem is the airlines are celebrating hiring people based on things other than merit. You know that, ABL. If the airlines came out and said, we don't believe in any type of diversity hiring, we only do the best, then maybe you would have a point. Like, because where you getting the concern about the race? Are you saying that you don't believe the airlines? Then maybe you might have something for me if you had a concern there. If the airlines was like, what are you talking about? Who's unqualified? Like, what's going on? So if you look at it closer, ABL replied to a couple people, and I like that he doesn't block. He kind of, replies a little bit to people. And he asked, well, somebody said to ABL here, how about let's focus on skin color, gender, sexual preferences, religion, or nationality, and focus more on ability and experience? That's not even my take. 100% on ability and experience. There is no 99 and then 1% skin color. No, that's not merit. 100% on ability and experience. And when we do that, we trust that we will have the right diversity because we're not looking at that. We're saying who's the best for the roles. Anthony Brian Logan says, who's focused on it? Who's focused on skin color? Is he being purposely ignorant? Who's focusing on it? This is the CEO of United Airlines.
How is diversity and diversity targets working into the Aviate Academy?
We have committed that 50% of the class of the classes will be women or people of color. Today, only 19% of our pilots at United Airlines are women or people of color. And by the way, from all the data I've seen, that's the highest of any airline in the country.
White males don't just dominate in the cockpits, also in the C-suite at United Airlines.
Well, look, at United, I'm proud of the diversity that we actually have in our C-suite. I think if you look around corporate America.
Correct me if I'm saying, though, so this was just based off your website, the people you list as executives, but out of 11 people, 3 are women. I believe 1 is a person of color.
That's correct. But,
You know why they're doing that? It's the same thing where we saw the New York firefighters boo Letitia James. In that ceremony, they were actually announcing the first woman or black or some identity commissioner or something like that. Why do they do that? Because that you are politically black. What they're talking about, remember I did that article, and I talked about Nicole Hannah-Jones, said that there's a difference between racially black and being politically black. They're talking about politically black. They want the black imams. That means the Democrat Party, the corporate Republicans control every walk of your life. The firefighters who their union is going more MAGA, more Trump. No, we don't want that. We got a commissioner who's the first black, politically black. It's not a black MAGA. You get the right people to head every walk of life, from comic books to airlines to firefighters to police forces to flying your planes. And who cares who the casualty, the fallouts are of that. Of when you have collectivism, you always have the fallout of collectivism. Who cares?
corporate America, I think,
That's a low bar. How do you raise your own bar?
Well, a lot of this is, focusing on it. We have programs one of the things we do is for every job when we do an interview, we require women and people of color to be involved in the interview process, bringing people in early in their careers as well, and giving them those opportunities and creating a stronger.
Just goofy ass virtue signaling. And then, on top of that, it's I brought up that he was a cross dresser. And you might think, well, why does that matter? Well, why do we know he's a cross-dresser? I mean, you can cross-dress in your private life. It's another example of him being overtly focused on virtue. Look at the example of hiring the black imams. If you really cared about the black imams, you would say, I only want to hire the best of the best, as a lie. And then go, or even maybe in your heart you believe that, and then you go hire the black imams or the rainbow flags or whatever, and then you set them up to say, I've always said I wanted to hire the best. Maybe you don't believe me, but that's what I've said. The reason why they don't do that, because they want a virtue signal off of it. They don't care about the black imams. They want a virtue signal off of it. He's the same airline guy that was the first American airline to mandate that Jabberwocky.
Scott, industries are worried about losing workers.
So remember, that was a big deal back then with the Jabberwocky. And then on top of that, he has that video where he came out and he was, cross-dressing in public. Like, what is that for? That's another virtue signal. Why does it have to happen in public? Why do we have to see, why are we seeing that? You can do whatever you want to do, but he's the CEO of United Airlines. It doesn't make any sense other than from the virtue signaling standpoint. And right now we need less virtue signaling and more safety.
Middle MAGA.